I'm Colleen, and let's look at a bunch of books that I would never, ever read. Okay, my husband had this idea, and he's like, I want you to do an unboxing of all my books. So it's not an unboxing because he always orders his books from like random thrift stores from all over the country, and they come in over a 3-week period. And he didn't want to wait, obviously, to open them or read them while they all came in. So he did open these. So they are already unwrapped. I have not looked at any of them. They've been sitting in a pile next to my desk waiting for me to do this video. And here's the thing about my husband. He buys all his books for the year in like one fell swoop. So these are all the books he's going to read this year. He might read 1 or 2 things that I recommend to him, but the last couple things I've recommended him, he's been not into it. I recommended The Disinvited Guest by Carol Goodman. He DNF'd it. I recommended Breathless by Amy McCulloch, and he took like 2 months to read it and complained to me the entire time. First of all, both those books were phenomenal, so don't even start with me on that. He has read some books and enjoyed them. I made him read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And while he wouldn't like admit to liking it, he read it in like a day and a half. So obviously it intrigued him. And then the same thing happened with The History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw, in which he read it very quickly, was like, I don't know how I felt about that, but he did read it fast and complete it. He also, I recommended The Hunger Games to him when I like got the hard copy ARC copy of it before it came out, and he loved it. And I also made him read Jerk California, and I can't remember who wrote that, and I had an ARC of that I gave away recently, but that is a great YA book that really didn't get as much attention as I thought it deserved about being a teen living with Tourette's. Moving on from that, here's a little background about my husband. We met when we were 14 years old, and I was taller than him, and now he's 7 inches taller than me. And I always like to preface that. That's how long we've known each other. We did not start dating for a very long time after we met, but I'm also very happy that he and I met each other and got the chance to fall in love before dating apps, because on paper, we don't really go together. Like his interests are like going to every baseball stadium in the United States, and mine are like staying home and watching Lord of the Rings all night. But we both did love travel, and we both currently love watching trashy TV shows together and getting Japanese food a lot. So here are the books that my sports-loving husband is going to read this year, and I'm going in blind. I don't know what the heck these are going to be about. Actually, I know what they're all going to be about, but I don't know the specifics. So let's get started. Okay, the first book is Knight, My Story. Bob Knight with Bob Hamill. Okay, so here's what I know. That's Bobby Knight, and he was a basketball coach at Indiana University, which is where my husband went to college, and my husband is obsessed with college basketball. And I think that if there's a book about Bobby Knight, he's read it. So, this is autographed to Brian from Bob Knight. It's got a really big rip in the autograph. That stinks. But I know he said he bought this book for like $5, but that's kind of cool. So I assume this is an autobiography about Bobby Knight. Cool. I'm just also not like an autobiography person at all. And all these books he picked are nonfiction, every single one of them. Yeah, so I'll let you know what he thinks. This is just like such a book that I would never, ever, ever read. Oh, wow, we have another book. A Season on the Brink, A Year with Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers by John Feinstein. I actually did see this one because John Feinstein also writes really good young adult fiction, like sports fiction. And I used to sell his books all the time when I worked in an indie bookstore. And I did recently try to see if my son was interested in some, but he decided not to get them. So I did see this and was like, oh, John Feinstein, he's a good author. So he's reading this one right now. This is the one he started. He's on page 154. Chapter 10. There's a lot of black and white photography in this one. Let's see when it came out. This came out in 1986 when we were 3 years old. So I'm sure it's a page turner. I mean, he already read a big chunk of it, so I'm sure he's enjoying it. Let's see if the next book is about Indiana basketball. Close! This is not Indiana. It's called Don't Put Me In, Coach, My Incredible NCAA Journey from the End of the Bench to the End of the Bench by Mark Titus. It's a guy wearing an Ohio State jersey, so it's another college basketball. Here's the quote. If Mark Titus had been able to play basketball the way he can write, he would have joined his Ohio State teammates in the NBA. No kidding. This is nothing less than a modern-day basketball version of Ball 4. A terrific look behind the locker room door, funny and profane and real. Great stuff. Well, that's a nice compliment. So I assume this is about a guy who was on the Ohio State team but never got to play because everybody else on the team was really good. That's what I'm going to go with. Cool. I opened up to a picture of the author in a thong, so that's interesting and fun. I don't know. Okay. I see another basketball book. Fab Five by Mitch Albom? Basketball trash talk and the American Dream. That's like Tuesdays with Maury guy, right? Okay, so I've heard my husband talk about the Fab Five before. So I know that they are a thing. So they're the Fab Five of Michigan. Oh, that makes sense because that's a Michigan University jersey. Which I am familiar with these because college basketball is on TV at our house all the time. So it's about Chris Webber. I know who he is. Jalen Rose. I've heard his name. Juwan Howard. I know him. Oh, he's from the Chicago Projects. That's probably why. Because I grew up near Chicago. Jimmy King, I don't know who that is. And Ray Jackson, I also don't know who that is. I can't believe Mitch Albom wrote this. He must have written this before he wrote Tuesdays with Maury because it's not in the bio. Yeah, he's only got a couple books. He wrote this in 1993. Interesting. Okay, so more basketball nonfiction. Are there anything that's not basketball nonfiction? Let's see. We have another basketball nonfiction, Larry Bird Drive, The Story of My Life, forward by Magic Johnson, by Larry Bird with Bob Ryan. I obviously know who Larry Bird is. And my husband's a big Larry Bird fan. We have a Larry Bird jersey hanging up in our basement, which is where all his sports paraphernalia is. So I'm assuming this is some sort of autobiography. This man wrote, let's see what year he wrote it in. It came out in 1989. He dedicated it to his grandma, which is very sweet. Bob Ryan, who co-wrote it with him, has been covering the Boston Celtics for the Boston Globe for more than 20 years. He's written a couple other books about the Boston Celtics. So he seems like a good person to co-write it. And cool, I guess. I really thought this was going to be a little bit more of a varied pile, but I have 2 books left, and I have a feeling they're both about basketball. He didn't even throw a baseball book in or a running book. He reads a lot of running books. This one's missing the dust jacket, but it's LeBron Inc. by Brian Windhorst. This is going to be hard because there's no back for me to read. The Making of a Billion-Dollar Athlete. Okay, came out in 2019, so relatively new. I'm going to guess this is about, well, the beginning says, at its core, a professional basketball team isn't all that different from the average high school squad. There are fights over minutes, shots, and roles. The good times come from camaraderie, teamwork, and winning. Some people love the coach, some people hate the coach, but there is one major difference that separates the NBA from every other league on earth, the money, obviously. So, yeah, I mean, my husband and I both grew up during like the Michael Jordan years. I don't know what to even call it. Cult that was happening in the Chicago and the Chicagoland area. So that's like always like a thing, like, is LeBron James better than Michael Jordan? I don't really watch LeBron James play. I did get into the Michael Jordan stuff when I was a kid. We've got one left, and it looks like basketball, but it also looks like someone I've never heard of. Pistol? The Life of Pete Maravich by Mark Kriegel. Who is this guy? Who are you? It's more than a biography of a ball player. It's the stuff of classic novels, the story of a boy transformed by his father's dream and the cost of that dream. Eventually, or even Pete Maravich became Pistol Pete, a basketball icon for baby boomers. All the Maraviches paid a price. Now acclaimed author Mike Kriegel has brilliantly captured the saga of an American family, its rise, its apparent ruin, and finally its redemption. Oh, that actually sounds kind of interesting to me. Okay, so he went to Louisiana State. He was a prisoner in his own fame. Let's see when this came out. This came out in 2007. See, that actually sounds like something I would like watch the documentary of. like an American dream and how it like got messed up by fame. I think that's really interesting. I'm not going to read this book because there's just too much other stuff I'd rather read. There's the one picture. He's being held in a black and white photo because I assume this takes place, if he's like the baby boomers, this is probably like the 60s or maybe like the early 70s. Oh, he had floppy socks and shaggy hair. So maybe he's like kind of a hippie. I don't know. Okay. Well, that's the last one. What a weird video I've made. What a weird video. Usually you get, romance, fantasy, thrillers, magical realism, contemporary fiction, historical fiction, graphic novels. And today you got 7 ? Basketball books. If you hung out, thank you. If you decide to skip this video, I totally understand. If this is your first time ever watching one of my videos because all you like to watch are reviews of books about nonfiction books about basketball, then thank you for this one video. I don't think there will be any more like this. So thanks for hanging out this one time. If you're still here, I bet you can guess what kind of emoji I'm going to say to throw in the comments. Give me a big old orange basketball, why don't you? As always, I hope you were in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'm going to go read a piece of historical fiction before my kids get home. See you later.